Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Free Photo Tip Fridays. How's everyone doing today? I hope we're all looking forward to a fun, long weekend coming up. It is the beginning of Labor Day weekend. So I hope you guys are ready to have some fun, get your cameras, and go out exploring. We're going to give everyone a few minutes to come on here while I make a few announcements before we get started. Good morning, good morning. First, if you're hearing us from Facebook, we've started something new, or at least we're going to try. I am going to attempt streaming our classes live on Facebook. So if you are here with us live on Facebook, I hope you can see and see my screen and my face, but also we're going to be bringing up a presentation and just sharing some photos with you. This is what we like to do on our free photo tip classes. So this should be fun, guys. Now you can always join us at livewonderful.clickmeeting.com. This is where our free classes are going to be hosted live online weekly. But now I'm hoping if this all works out, if you happen to be over on Facebook at the same time and catch us, you'll not only be able to see my face as I'm chatting with you, but you'll be able to see the presentation too, which I thought was pretty cool. So let's see how this goes. Alicia, last minute, got an awesome photo shoot for today. So she's probably still shooting right now. She may be able to join us and jump on, but I know it was at 11 today. So we will miss her, but I know she's out being creative and having fun. And I'll make sure she chimes in either later or at another time as well with her advice about our word of the week. So who joined us on Instagram this week? You know, for the past I don't know, since March or so, we've been doing live Instagrams every Wednesday at noon, and we're just sharing some Wednesday wisdom. But what we end up doing is pulling one word that can help us inspire the rest of our week. And then when we come over here on Fridays, we're taking that same word and applying it to visual storytelling. So this week's word is notice, or see, right? Just look. Pretty obvious in some regards, especially when it comes to photography, but I'll give you a little backstory and how this word came up this week. My parents are here visiting in town in Florida, and much of my creative enthusiasm has come from my father, Eric Werner. And so he joined me on our Instagram Live this week, and it was his idea. I asked him, I said, "What's a word that inspires you, Dad?" And he goes, his company is called the Eastern Shore Experience. You can check it out, easternshoreexperience.com. And the best way I like to describe him is he's the Steve Irwin of the East Coast. So he has always had a passion for nature and wildlife. And so he shares that through nature tours in his company. And he said his mission every time he takes someone out is, I just want to get them to notice. I just want them to stop for a minute, stop being in that go, 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 and just notice, right? Because when we notice, that's when we actually start to see the story unfold in front of us, right? We talk all the time here about being present and coming into the now, but that's not always easy to do. So one of the questions I asked him was, how do you get there? Like, yeah, it's great to share and teach like we are here at Live Wonderful, and always have advice for people depending on what they're out there doing, whether you're noticing wildlife or noticing something to take a picture. He said, I never leave that space. That's how you get there, is that you get there and then you don't leave. So you'll know when you're out of it, when you're out of that present moment, because you're not noticing, you're not being open, right? So last couple weeks, our words were possibility and wonder. And we get to these stages of wonder or curiosity by first stepping back to notice. You know, when we started doing these free photo tips months and months and months ago, I already had a great curriculum of different things we were going to talk about each week that wrapped around this idea of being a visual storyteller, right? So no matter what level you're at as a photographer, whether you just picked your camera up or you've been shooting for years, we're constantly, even some of the best photographers in the world, one that I love dearly is Chris Burkhardt. And, I think we're the same age, but he is just light years ahead of me in photography. Of course, that's just my opinion, my story. But one of the things he says all the time is like, put your camera down. Just go out and look around. He's like, if anything that I can teach people who look up to my work, if I can teach you anything, it's that I have no idea what I want or what I'm doing until I get myself in that present moment and just start noticing. So what are those things that come up for us when we notice, right? Like as photographers, it feels like it's this constant back and forth of like, be in the moment, but be with your camera. Be in the moment, but make sure your camera's ready, right? So there's definitely those ebbs and flows that we've talked about where you get frustrated, or maybe you find yourself not able to really pay attention up here in the viewfinder and you catch yourself down here. And what happens when we're down here focused? Did I do the settings right? Do I have my buttons right? We're missing everything that's going on in front of us. We're missing what could be a magical shot because we're not noticing. We're not fully aware of what's happening out there. So I thought that I'd bring on our tips today about noticing by backing up and kind of reminding everyone what it is that we're doing with our eyes and the camera, and how do we use this word notice or just look without feeling obvious, right? Like, okay, I'm looking around. No, what do I see? How do I set my camera? So I wrote a couple things down, and one of them was, first, with this word, don't pick up your camera, okay? So when you're gonna go out this weekend, especially you got this long weekend, I want you to go out and really explore and have fun. Play a little game with yourself. And if you're here and you've been doing these classes with us, I know you're like me where you get excited and you like always want your camera out, or you're like, I don't want to miss anything. Take a moment this weekend to actually go out like you're going to shoot, but leave your camera by your side. Don't have it ready to shoot. And so what that's going to do is kind of put you in this place of newness, this place of mystery, right? Because you're not forcing something, you're not like ready to go. You're just open to it. What's out here? What do I see, right? So if we are all natural born storytellers, that's what it means to be human, right? We love to share and connect. I want to take that a step further and say that we are all natural born visual storytellers. We are visual creatures, right? It is our sight that pulls us into things. So how do we actually see things? Like, let's get a little bit, practical here or realistic. We see with our eyes, right? But we also see by the fact that we are intaking light, right? And those of you who've been through our beginner class, one of the first things we teach you is your camera, this thing that has a lens and a body, right? You got two parts here. I want you to think of it like an eyeball and a brain, right? And this eye and brain's job is to intake light, interpret it, measure it correctly, right? And then create a visual interpretation of it, our version of that moment. So what are the things that make us see a moment, okay? We have light, obviously. We can't see anything without some amount of light in our space. But we also have movement, right? Our eyes see in movies, right? Our eyes don't necessarily see the way still photography sees things or the way DSLR camera sees things. I want you to think that we see in frames per second, like a movie. So you see movement and it's constant, right? If it's there, it doesn't just happen once, it's a movement, it's a flow. You also see with focus, right? So you guys know movement is shutter speed, focus is aperture. Those are our storytelling elements to the camera, right? And light, we set our ISO first to get that foundation of the right kind of light we're shooting in. But light really trumps all of these things, right? Light is the end all be all to photography. So if we can step back before we pick up our cameras and literally just say, what do I notice? What do I see? And then identify the light. What's happening with this light? Is it bright? Is it soft and like cloudy? Are you indoors like me where all the lights are off, but I'm in front of a window? So just light. What's happening with the light? Is it warm light? Is it really sunny and bright, and so the grass looks yellowy because it's got that bright light on it? Or is it morning and you see the dew on it and it's got that colder color to it because the sun hasn't really warmed up the earth yet? So just light. Just start noticing the light. Another thing we talk about with light is, where's it coming from? Not just how powerful, how bright is it, or what color is it bringing into your frame, but what direction is it coming from? Over your shoulder, which, a lot of portrait photographers would suggest make sure that your light source, your sun, is behind you, and you are, or they would say in the olden days with film cameras, they would say, make sure you're between your light source and your subject. So if my subject was this computer, or you guys, your face, I would want my light source back here so that it is hitting the front of the subject that I'm trying to capture, right? So what direction is that light coming from? If it's backlit, that's an obvious one, right? That means it's coming from behind your subject, meaning you're gonna have light pointed directly into your camera. So how are you gonna work with that light? All of these things start with simply noticing. While you're noticing the light, what happens? Time passes, right? You start to realize you're curious about different aspects of what you're seeing, because now that that light has helped you expose for what you're looking at, you're able to see movement, color, and you're focusing on certain things because movement caught your attention, or the color drew you into this area that you're looking at. So again, before you even pick up that camera, think about your visual frame, your eyes and brain, and what they're doing for you in this moment. How are you noticing what's happening in front of you? And the reason I start by saying don't pick your camera up yet is because as soon as this is in our hand, the pressure's on, right? Because now we have to do something with it. So again, if we can use this word notice to help us become better photographers, the real way to put yourself into that present moment is to kind of simplify things from the get-go, right? So if the camera's down and you're out scouting, right, or it's down by your side, you're giving your full attention to noticing, to becoming more aware. I think one of our first words when we did this was self-awareness. So think of this as the next layer to self-awareness. Now you're going to become aware of your outer circumstances, the things that are happening out there in your field, not just who you're being and how you're interacting or connecting maybe with your subjects or your scene, but now what's actually happening out there. So when we start to identify that light, the next thing we need to decide is, how are we going to interpret the movement in our scene, right? So we all know fast shutter speeds are going to freeze any movement, which for the most part is what we're trying to do. But we have to remember that the beauty of slow shutter speeds is that they're going to show us a new way of seeing that moment, right? Because remember, we see in movies, we see constant frames per second, right? So imagine when you take one click, your eyes have now seen 1,000 clicks in that same amount of time, just like a movie. So if movement plays a part and we can't see in slow motion, that's when it gets to be fun to play with slow shutter speeds, right? And don't forget your tripod when you're playing with slow shutter speeds. I'm actually going to bring up a photo right now. And I want to kind of talk about these three elements: the light, the movement, and the focus, all of which there's no way, shape, or form I would have known what to do with these elements without taking a moment first to notice with my camera down by my side and just taking in this scene. And I picked this picture out specifically or especially for Diana, who is here with us live, because she asked about moon photography. She emailed us earlier, which, by the way, guys, anytime you have questions or you're challenged, you're troubleshooting maybe a setting on your camera, feel free to reach out to us, okay? So hello@livewonderful.com. You can always email us, shoot us a message through Facebook or Instagram. So I have a photo for you, Denise, with the moon that in this exact moment, I had no idea what to do with my settings. I literally had to put my camera down and take it in and take time to step into that present moment and notice what was going on with light, movement, and focus before I thought about these settings. So if you're joining us live, when this picture comes up, right, I want you guys to notice, just look around the frame and notice it, and maybe take some guesses as to what you think my settings were, what my ISO was, what my shutter speed was, and what my aperture was at, okay? But have fun with this. Really let that instinct just jump into play and see what grabs your attention, okay? So you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I hope everyone over there on Facebook is able to still see us and hopefully see this shot up here. So guys, this is sunset at Lake Eola here in Orlando, Florida. This is one of the fun, I think one of my favorite photo walks we do here in town. And we will be bringing these back actually this coming month. So sunset, right? It's kind of dark. But what else do you notice is going on in this scene? And I know, Denise, that this might not be the same kind of moon shot that you were going for. She was doing more zoomed in telephoto shots, just focusing on the moon. But here's a moment, guys, when I had to step back and notice how many more elements were playing a part into my story before I knew really what story I wanted to tell. And mind you, I have thousands of photos of Lake Eola and this fountain because we go down there all the time, especially at sunset. It's the most beautiful time of day to shoot down there. So how could I make this moment feel, look, or tell a different story if I've been there a million times and I've shot that fountain a million times? I had to stop. I had to look for something new, okay? I had to bring myself into that present moment. So I can tell you right now, when I first shot this, like when you look at the beginning of the film strip in Lightroom and you see this series of like Danielle trying to get this shot, I started off way too dark. My photo was way too dark. And then I took a shot and it was way too bright. So what setting do you think I was messing with first where I was confused? Or let's put it this way, my eyes were interpreting the light so quickly that I wasn't able to really know how the camera was seeing the light. I wasn't processing that light correctly because my eyes were already doing it for me. So I actually shot dark because in this moment, it was much, much brighter out, right? As it gets darker, our pupils open up, they dilate, right? And that allows for more light to get in because there's not as much light in the sky. The sun's going down, right? So we're losing light by the second. But what happens around sunset, if you've shot at sunset, I'm sure you're going, yep, yep. What happens is it's slow, it's gradual darkness, right? So our eyes don't realize it's getting darker because they're able to gradually keep the proper exposure. So in my mind, in this moment, it was still bright out. And I thought, oh, I got to make sure my ISO is really low because I have plenty of light out here. Didn't even see the moon, guys. Did not see that moon for many, many shots because it was so bright. It was so bright still. And that's because our eyes were interpreting this light already for us. They were exposing for this light. So first shot, I'm like, whoa, I need much more ISO. You couldn't even see the buildings at all. So I put my ISO up. I think this final shot, the ISO is like at probably 1,000. And I think I started at 400, thinking there was still plenty of light in my sky, but there wasn't. Then, as I brightened it, what did I lose? I lost the colors in the sky. I lost um, the glow because there was more light being pumped in through the sensitivity of the ISO. So I had to keep altering. What else do you see in this shot? You see the movement, right? Now, the sky has that movement effect. But again, we don't always pay attention to the movement of the clouds, do we? How often do you actually look up and go, wow, those clouds are moving? Because it happens so slowly and gradually that over time, our eyes are not interpreting that. We're not catching it. We're not paying attention to it, right? We're not noticing it. So the movement of the sky wasn't even a part of where my mind was initially. I wasn't noticing all of that. But I did see the movement in the water, right? And we've got the swans. You can even see in the bottom right-hand corner, one swan happens to be still enough that he's frozen, but then there's this blurry blob next to him. That's a swan moving through the water, right? So all of a sudden, I've got this conundrum of, wow, I actually need a lot more light if I want to capture this beautiful sunset than I thought I did. But if I use shutter speed to open up that light, which is going to bring those colors into the sky, right? We're going to see that movement and those that gradual change of the clouds moving by using slower shutter speeds. But what else is that doing? It's opening up the light. It's letting more light in. So it was a constant back and forth. Oh, I need more light. Oh, let me pump up my ISO so I can see the buildings and the colors and all the way in the distance. Let me pump up my ISO. Oh, well, crap. I wanted a slower shutter speed because now I'm noticing the clouds in the sky moving. So first, probably 15 shots back and forth between ISO and shutter speed, trying to level out, catching that movement to play into my story, but still having enough sensitivity that you still brought in enough light. It was darker than I thought, but you didn't lose that depth and color that was showing up in the sunset. So I get good exposures, right? And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, there's the moon. So I didn't even notice the moon the whole time I was shooting. My first 10, 15 shots are all horizontal, okay? My focus was initially that fountain. Now, what happens when I saw the moon? Yeah, I could have reframed. I could have tried to get in a corner. No, I just went pop, vertical. My whole story is now so much more worthy of these elements because now that moon is pulling you in from the top corner. I can see this tree is a great thing to frame. I'm noticing how by turning my camera, where is that moon going to sit compared to my original subject? And now how can I notice where the other elements are going to help build this frame? Okay. So noticing every single click. I'm not just down here going, oh, what am I noticing with my camera and my settings? I'm constantly out here looking at the world and going, what do I notice with the light? What do I notice with the movement? What do I notice with the things I'm focused on, that I'm paying attention to? And every click, one or all of those things changes because I'm constantly noticing again and again. And if you keep telling yourself to notice that, notice something else, that's you staying present. That is you being in the moment constantly, being in the now. So even if it's not with the camera, okay? I know this is a photography class, but you guys, this is a great tip to use in general in life. Before you go do something, right? Oh, I gotta get in my car and go to the gym. Oh, I gotta go to the grocery store. Oh, just stop and notice, right? Yeah, you could say, oh, notice the weather, notice the light. No, I mean, notice how you are, who you are, what you see, what are you focused on in that moment, how much movement is going on. Maybe you're rushing around, and how much light. You can even think of the word light a little differently. Are you being light? Is everything light and fun and enjoyable? Or does everything feel dark and rough and tough and hard? So use this word, guys. Use the word notice. And I can't emphasize it enough. I think it's the one thing that even the oldest photographers in the world are the ones who have been shooting since the day they picked up a camera, and they've never given up this obsession. I guarantee you all of us still come back to this and go, this is the one thing that makes us know this is magic, this is fun, this is creative, because every single second of the day we have a new chance to notice something new. So every time you shoot, even we're going to go do Lake Eola again at the end of the month, I'm excited to notice something new. If you guys feel like you're in a rut or you need a jolt of inspiration, if you will, here's your word. Just stand back and notice. Put your camera down, put it by your side, stick your cell phone in your pocket, and take in that beautiful scene that makes you want to go, I gotta get this. Put your camera down and just notice. Just be with it for a minute. And watch how that story continues to unfold. Now, in the end, guys, I think my final settings for this were about a half a second, ISO 1000, half a second shutter speed. And of course, you're looking at a landscape shot, so I have sharp focus at f14 or 15 or 16 or something like that. So, but if I had a longer shutter speed, you know what happens if your shutter speed is too long? That moon looks like a blur, okay? So we do need to have a little bit of darker shutter speeds, because we have to remember the moon is very bright, right? So our eyes can see that super, super bright moon and the darkness, the lights inside the rooms in those buildings, even though one is much, much darker than the other. Our eyes can interpret that much light at the same time. The camera can't always do that, so it's up to us to see what is our sensor able to take in, how much light and time, right, shutter speed, how much light is it going to take to get this moon, dark enough that we see the outline of it, not bright enough. The moon is always going to be bright enough in your scene. When we're shooting the moon, we're constantly underexposing because the moon is so bright. If your camera is catching it and able to focus on it, it's going to be the brightest thing in your scene, because everything else around it is dark, right? It's at night. Now, of course, if you try and shoot the moon during the day, that's not the case. But here in the evening, that constant, gradual, slow change of light, getting darker and darker, the only way to be present to, I'm going to get that moon and the movement in the foreground and the sunset, I had to step back and notice, what are my eyes interpreting compared to how the camera is going to interpret the light, the movement, and the things I want to focus on to tell my story. So I hope you enjoyed this photo. This shot's up on our Instagram too. You can go check it out and zoom in on these different areas if you want to take a look at it in more detail. And I hope that everyone is able to enjoy this over on Facebook too. If you guys have been watching, thank you so much for joining. You're welcome to leave comments, ask questions. If you guys go out this weekend, not if, when you go out this weekend and have fun with your cameras, share your shots with us. You can always use the hashtag #LiveWonderful, and we will feature your images. And feel free to join our Facebook community. We have the Live Wonderful photo community over on Facebook. Got hundreds of students in that group that have enjoyed sharing their shots and getting really supportive feedback. So whether it's a shot you're frustrated by or a shot that you love, we're here to help. So share your shots with us. Let us know how you're doing when you're out there shooting. And we hope to see you guys next week. Oh, I do have one more announcement. Thank you, Diana. Thanks for joining us. Glad you enjoyed it. One more announcement, guys. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently starting next week, okay? So I have some major projects coming up in the fall, and Fridays at noon are not going to work for us anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to be doing our free photo tips as a free online class on Wednesday afternoons, okay? Right now I'm thinking 4 p.m. So if you are getting these emails and you want to make sure you keep getting the emails so you know hey, let me jump onto these classes, let us know. You can subscribe at livewonderful.com and we'll make sure you get the emails and the reminders. So next week, we're going to be doing our next free photo class Wednesday at 4 p.m. I'll make sure that link gets up at livewonderful.clickmeeting.com. And my goal will be to combine this with our Wednesday Wisdoms on Instagram Live. So if you've been joining those at noon, they're going to move to 4 o'clock as well. And we're going to kind of mash this all together and bring you some weekly wisdom through the Live Wonderful words, but also combine that with our fun photo tips we've been sharing every week. And they'll still be great fun 20, 30-minute classes. So I hope you guys are enjoying this. Good to know. Denise says she loves getting the notifications, so we'll make sure that keeps happening. And thank you guys for coming on. Have an awesome Labor Day weekend. Go out, put your cameras down by your side first. Go enjoy just noticing the beauty of the moment, and then have fun. Take lots of pictures, and we will see you guys next week. Bye, everyone. Oh, you're welcome. Bye.